quorum, and the vice chair gets to run the meeting.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Outdoor Lighting Code Committee meeting for Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. And we need to have a roll call.
Amy Oliver. Dennis Kuhn.
Here.
Buell Januzzi.
Here.
Rob East.
Here.
Alec Zimmerman.
Here.
And Daniel Slater.
Here.
So Alec is here. You got him.
He is, but we're not hearing.
I saw his lips move. Fortunately, that works. Alec, you might have to type into the chat until we can figure out how to get audio piped back into the room. Thank you, sir. Mr. Vice Chair, we have quorum.
Great. So I'm going to try to move through this as quick as we can because we have a lot to cover today in item 3. So item 2 is approval of the minutes and legal action report. And there were 2 of them that came out. One is from August 6th meeting and the other is from September 3rd. And for the August 6th meeting, I guess I'd like to know if everyone's looked it over and if we could have a motion for acceptance.
I was not at that meeting, so I can't comment on whether it's active.
Motion to accept.
Second, from Daniel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. For the Wednesday, September 3rd meeting, again, do we have a motion to accept the?
Motion to accept.
You've got a second?
Dan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, briefly for the record, Bill, did you vote on the first?
I abstained.
You abstained. I just want to make sure I got the count right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item number 3, which is the committee discussion of public comments. I think as we go through these, we're going to have to handle this similar to we did in the last meeting, which is that this is really for committee members, and we're not going to be able to take comments from the audience while we're discussing these items.
So let me mildly object to that. The one problem with the last meeting was by the time the public got to comment, their issue might have already been talked about an hour ago. Sort of hard to connect things. And I don't think there's any way we're going to get through all these comments today. We're going to be in another meeting. So I don't know if it's allowable under the rules. Can we have committee talk about a certain set of comments that are grouped together and then let the public comment and then go back to the committee?
I think we could agree to do that. Absolutely.
Okay. And as a point of clarification, the first half of this meeting is intended to be strictly for the committee to discuss.
Okay.
And the second half is for open public comment and
Okay.
interaction.
Well, then we can stick with that if that's what it's supposed to be. But I think
the comments came in and they're kind of grouped by who put the comments in, and maybe after we get through a group, we can
go back to the
move on.
Okay.
Now, I noticed, Dan, that you sent out a comprehensive compilation this morning. I did not have time to go through that, so I've got what was sent last week, but I've got them in the order that you had.
Yeah, it'll be the same thing. We got, what won't be in the one you got on Monday, Dennis, is the comments we got on Tuesday. But I did send all the lighting committee members everything we got on Tuesday. So you do have everything. It's just not in one.
Yeah, I think I have that because there was a separate letter from Chamber, Dark Skies, Dale area. And then there was a marked up code. And I think maybe that goes with the Greater. Okay. And then finally, there was a letter from Timothy Kinney. So I think I have everything.
You do.
So, I mean, I think amongst the committee members, this can be pretty free flowing. And I guess we start on page 1 of the compiled comments. Rick Hollander has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that came in. And do you think I should read these all, or we all know what they are and just ask for people to respond on them as they see fit? I've got responses I can make to some of the comments. And
Does everybody have a copy of it? And you can say just enough to say what you want.
yeah, so the first comment about festoon lighting, I guess my general comment would be maybe we need a more generalized applicability note that we may not have, because we kind of dance around, all lumens on site and all, but do we really come out and say it applies to light fixtures that are both installed and, I think in this case, operated if it's on a site. And we may not actually be saying that. So, there are already things in the code about seasonal lighting and such. And I think many people think that the festoon lights might fit into that. But of course, that's limited to a really strict time period. And I think all of our experience is that we see them operating year round.
So you're proposing that we need to add an explicit statement?
Maybe we need something at the very beginning of chapter 4 that says that, in the context of applying this, it applies to lighting, whether it's permanently fixed in place or of a temporary nature. If that's what it should be saying. I'm just throwing that out. And I have not authored the words for that.
I think we should remove the ambiguity. So
that could,
the committee's not here.
So that could be a scope item that perhaps, I think the plan is that we're going to go ahead and have additional subcommittee meetings to try to put language to this stuff. Because I don't know if we can slow down enough in the full committee to do that. Let me just write for a second. Okay, the second comment is talking about LED strip lights are not festoon. They should have their own section. I guess my comment on that would be that I don't think we can address any and every different style and permutation of lights. And I think if they're lights and they're covered. So
You can't name everyone.
I don't think we need to do anything.
The one they sell at Christmas, you shine your light and it turns into different things. You should list that one too.
Third is, what about existing installations that were code compliant at the time of install and permitted? Now code compliant is retrofitted without permits. I'll offer my opinion first. I think the lighting code is applying to new installations and additions and modifications, et cetera, that are permitted. An existing installation, if that's out of code, I think that's something that gets addressed by code enforcement. And just by itself, we're not trying to say how to retrofit an old code, but if it was legal when it went in, it can be maintained forever and ever and ever unless it hits some other limitation. Okay, Rick, go ahead because you wrote the comment.
What was is, I went to a project and they had changed the light heads, but not the poles. The light heads were done without permit, but to come and get their permit, because they would the outside 3 poles would either have to be cut down, replaced. And the question was that where if they put a house side shield, it then met the requirements. It stopped the light trespass that was being complained about. The permit would still have to go through for the replacement of the heads, but rather than, because it's existing.
Let me cut to the chase on that. I think what you're saying is they had a taller pole with an old light.
No,
They wanted to
it was a street light.
a street light pole, and the permit was to put a new light fixture on it, but because it's new, it was too tall for the
Yes.
location relative to adjacent property. So now it has to go in lower. I think our code is already saying we want it low, so we don't have to go into the details of how they modify that and all. They have to mount that new pole, the new light fixture, compliant with what's in the code. Clayton.
This is Clayton with the city of Tucson. The city would deem that existing light pole existing non-conforming, and relamping it would not be considered a new installation. It would be a replacement of an existing fixture similar to replacing a fixture in an existing location on a building. If there was a fixture on a building, we wouldn't necessarily require it to be lowered because the new code changed if they were replacing the fixture in the same location. We would consider the pole similar definition to structure in that consideration.
That helps resolve the problem.
So I don't think we need to do anything in outdoor lighting code for that one. Next is chapter 4, section 40123, talking about reflection and all. So that's in dealing with the light fixture under the canopy, and does the canopy shield the fixture? And I think that's one of those specific details that is probably best handled on a case-by-case basis. I don't know how to put the words in lighting code for that one.
Also he talks about color of the building, looking off of that. We want nothing to do with the color of the building and the outdoor lighting.
It just gets, I don't know how far in the weeds we can go with all this stuff. We need more broad brush. Okay.
So far, we've only thing that we think leads to a.
I think the very first comment we should, and then I do not.
But are we going to try? Are we going to try to document our responses, or is this up recorded? Listen to it if they want.
So I'm trying to keep up the best we can.
That's hard.
Decisions that you're making, but keep in mind also these comments should be pushed forward to the subcommittee for the next version of the draft.
Right.
And as I'm going through, I'm making a notation to say if the subcommittee needs to work on it.
That's what I'm doing too.
I'm going to have a fundamental thing. Yeah, we need to work on it. And then if I think I have to add more notes, so I know specifically, I'll note that.
Okay.
And Craig and I and Amy are on the subcommittee. So let's see, second to last from Rick is this chapter 2, section 202 says, add the deleted definition of sun glow as an informational note to the code. I didn't understand the word sun. Did you mean sky glow?
Sun glow was brought up in the last meeting. It was mentioned multiple times.
I think it was sky glow. I think it was sky glow.
Not sure. I just didn't understand. I don't think we need to do anything with that.
The reason I said we took it out of the code, but some people don't understand, so by putting it as an information, what it is, not the age of the
Well, the sky glow just means light that's coming from the sky, but it could have, its original source could have been a bunch of different things. And so it gets used in many different ways. So they try to pretend that there's only one definition. That's one reason to get rid of it from code. It's not depending on the context.
That was my understanding of me, but thank you.
Okay.
Then we've got the next from Rick, which is last from Rick Hollander. Chapter 2, section 202, add an informational note to definition of house side shielding. It is typically installed on the side of the light fixture that faces residential properties or homes. The primary purpose of a house side shield is to minimize light glare and ensure the safety of residents while still allowing the light from the light fixture to be visible. Now, we discussed that in subcommittee quite in depth, and we decided that we wanted a shorter definition, which was it was just there to prevent light trespass.
I like that because it's more than just whether the light's visible. We want the light to only go to what needs to be illuminated. Not trespass.
Now, the problem is where we're at with the light trespass, there still can be some subjective interpretations of that. But I don't know that it's been demonstrated that in the past we've had unusually harsh or punitive interpretations of those kinds of rules. And one of the things I've been trying to avoid is the requirement for a quantitative measure of light trespass, because once we institute that, it means every single outdoor lighting permit is going to have photometry run, and that's going to be a big big deal, you know, for minor stuff to somebody's going to have to go out and get an engineer to run the photometry, and it's going to cost a lot of money. And so we've been trying to really since the year 2000, put prescriptive means that would address light trespass issues. And some of those is the use of house side shielding, some of them is the mounting heights, et cetera, et cetera. Those types of things have been trying to approach it prescriptively without actually having a requirement like at property line, you can have no more than a certain number of foot candles. I am thinking though that we may not have perhaps an alternative standard, which might be instead of doing all these prescriptive things, maybe we should have another thing, you know, or provide photometry proving that there's no more than a certain number of foot candles at a certain location, you know, property line so many feet above the ground. And that's something we don't have in the code, is like that alternative means of compliance. So maybe that's something we could put into it. But right now we don't. We have all these prescriptive things. And for that reason, based on what Rick is asking for, even that I don't think completely does what we want the house side shields to address. And I think what we have is better.
They were asking, Rick was just asking though for an informational note, right? That's what he calls it. He's just asking that. I'm not sure it really adds much, but he's saying usually it goes on the house side.
Well, and he's pushing one of your buttons, and to ensure the safety of residents.
Yeah,
as though more lighting provides
provides
safety.
safety. Well, also it doesn't explain where if the lighting's going into your bedroom window, is it really helping the safety of the people in the bedroom?
Would be, no, again, I would not advocate changing that section.
So what's the definition in the code for light trespass now?
Well, not for the light, he's talking about the definition of a house side shield. House side shielding. An house side shield is an attachment for an outdoor light fixture, especially street lights, parking lot lights, or yard lights, that reduces light trespass. And then light trespass.
Adequate definition.
Light trespass is, I thought that was the first.
And while we're looking at all these nice figures, there was a question.
Here it is.
There was a suggestion that I got that will the figures be in the code? And it sounds like figures are going to be in the code.
This is Clayton. We are planning to add figures to certain sections. Which figures, which sections
Still
is still to be determined.
I want to say that's wonderful. It's great.
Yeah, but there are some diagrams and things in this latest draft. So light trespass says unwanted or intrusive artificial light that extends beyond the property line of the site where the light source is installed, resulting in illumination of another property without permission.
Yeah. So I think both of those definitions are understandable. So I'd like to.
Yeah, it's truly subjective, you know. We're not quantifying how much light and all that.
Well, it's saying anything at this point. You can see it on, if you're in your bedroom and you see the light.
Yeah, that's a pretty stiff definition at that.
But it's consistent with that. Not seeing the light on the sidewalk, it's you're seeing the light directly come in. You can notice on your bedroom wall whether the light is going on or off. That's what people care about, right? That's the biggest complaint I get about light trespass. I don't get, oh, it's 1 foot onto the grass of my yard.
So, to bring this back to where we are in the comment is about the definition of house side shield. Does anyone think we need to change that, or should we leave it as is?
I think leave it as is.
Okay, I'm going to indicate no
That's okay.
action on that. Okay. Let's move on. So now we have a few comments from Patty Hayes, and she's representing Town of Oro Valley. And first is Chapter 2, Section 202, definition of fully shielded diagram. And I think the issue is that the diagram has 3 variations. It has unshielded, partially shielded, and fully shielded. And so the the code doesn't deal with partially shielded.
She's right then.
Yeah, my opinion would be we should keep all three pictures, three different types of lights, but the first two on the left should be indicated as unshielded, and only the one that has all the way to the right should be fully shielded.
That's okay with me if we say, explain that.
Yeah, I think,
Okay, so you're gonna say the unshielded and partially shielded for the code purpose are both unshielded?
yeah, it would say unshielded, and it would say unshielded, and then it would say fully shielded.
If people think the figure helps, then let's.
I think the figure absolutely helps, and especially the one of what's described as partially shielded. In fact, our code is, it's unshielded.
Yeah, one problem with this figure is that it makes it look like the light magically stops a foot away from the fixture. Right?
Yeah, that's just where the ink stops, but the
I know.
light just
It's the light keeps going. And so,
and if it was up on a hill, it could go for miles
right. So,
from all of them.
so if the light extended to the ground here, this one going up and this one would have light going up, it would make it.
I don't think we need that.
No,
I'm sorry.
we don't need it.
I mean, it's up.
I think it's pretty obvious the way it's drawn.
Okay,
That this is showing light going above the
Can we show it
horizontal
on the
plane.
next page, Bill?
okay.
Bill, you're just an ink spender.
I think I'm bringing you up next today.
I guess I'm going to say the subcommittee will deal with that, and we're going to say yes, adopt.
Great.
Okay, so the second comment from Patty Hayes is the same issue, and it's the second diagram. I actually hit it wrong. The diagram occurs under fully shielded. It also occurs under unshielded. So we'll fix it in both locations.
Right.
Let's see, Patty Hayes, chapter 3, section 301.3, identify reservations and towns. Areas of reservations and towns should be listed. Presumably, they are not included in this code and may need to be referenced. And so chapter 3 starts out with the lighting areas, and it talks about all these geographical descriptions or roads to set the lighting areas. But none of these acknowledge Town of Marana, Town of Ali Rita, which are separate legal jurisdictions, nor the Tohono Nation, Paskayaki, Pueblo. I'm not sure if there's any others.
Yeah,
And-
who's exempt?
Well, they're not covered by our code.
They're exempt.
Yeah, they're a different political entity, as would be federal government buildings, et cetera, et cetera. So we do have these lighting areas. Maybe we need to add some words that
Could we just,
exemption.
instead of listing every single one, can we just say, these areas include areas that are exempt from this code, like separate municipalities?
Well,
you're not careful.
or we could throw in this, whatever that color is, to say areas. Or we could say, towns, municipalities and reservations or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I don't know how often the list changes. If it's easy to put the list, I don't object.
I
to the
can-
list.
It's easy for me to get that changed in.
So graphically, it would show on the map.
Yeah.
And it
But
just,
it needs to be clear that we're not saying there's no code there. It's not, we're saying it's
so
not.
maybe what we need is a legend on the map, something that says like, for these other areas, these are governed by outdoor
Or, yeah.
lighting regulations in the other municipalities and governing areas.
That's right. So we don't want to make it sound like there's no code there. There is a code, it's just not our code.
I would be in favor of that. I don't know.
My comment on the map is it goes all the way from one side of Pima County, the other. All the quilt is within where we all live at. I think we should have a blow up of that area and it calls out like River Road and some of the other things. I mean, western Pima County, there's nothing. I just think the map needs to be too, this kind of overall and then focusing in on the greater area where the bigger population and all the rules and regs are at, and call out River Road, call out some of the map lines.
You mean the boundaries?
Yeah, it's just, to me,
So I
it's
like
like,
that suggestion.
So
I
I
think it's a separate suggestion. I think the question this comment's asking is, do we have to list all these
Yeah, but related to that, one way that I apply it though is I access it through Pima Maps, and you can zoom in, and you can get it. I mean, right
I
now.
do too, but
and
people
type.
that are just looking at this and it's.
So do we
zooming
have a
in,
reference to Pima Maps?
Yeah,
Because
it's there, Dinner.
Is there?
yeah, well, or maybe we need something that says to the effect that for details of boundaries between lighting areas.
Maps or something.
Yeah, reference Pima Maps.
I can look, if you look at 3.1.3, we can change the wording.
Lighting areas may be viewed at,
That's the link to what you're.
but we're showing the map here, but this is reference only. Refer to Pima Maps for latest or
Yeah.
detailed information.
Sure.
Something along those
Good
lines.
with that.
Because at this scale, it's really useless. You can't tell. I mean, you get
But I
a
think
feel
it was-
for it, but
I don't know who put this in, but
I do.
I like it because it's just
it gives you a feel
it's
for it.
trying to also this is not the whole area that affects what the brightness of the dark sky is. Right.
Left out Phoenix.
You have to include Phoenix.
That's why it's Pima County.
It's the Pima County code, but this gives a sense that it's not just River Road that matters.
So, why don't I say on this comment about identifying reservations in towns, that's a subcommittee item to check the wording on that, and
And I can work with the GIS group, implement whatever changes.
yeah. Then next comment is chapter 4, section 401.4.4, and I think it's related to this diagram of a floodlight. And one thing I didn't catch was apparently Patty inserted a drawing of, or maybe that's this one.
Yeah.
Um,
And she's asking if the bulb's in it, is it shielded? It is not shielded.
it may not be
It's
shielded.
not shielded because you're gonna have refracted light coming off that bottom part of that bottom part of that shield going upward.
One other
It's
thing,
not
there are
fully
some
shielded.
floodlights that look like this, where the whole lens is the emitting element. So if you install it completely face
Correct.
down, you have a full cutoff fixture. You aim it up at 30 degrees, you definitely have some light going up into the sky. Now-
Or even if it's tilted downward. You know, if it's tilted downward, because this is the house side at that point, if it's tilted downward, so you have a light coming off the house. But still, as that shield sits down below, it's refracting on this kind of a floodlight. It's refracting off the bottom part of the,
I'm just stupid here. There's a glass part
There's-
at the base at that rim.
I don't know if it's
Often
that
not.
or if it's the bottom, the way they drew the elliptical.
usually there's no glass on those. It's a bare bulb.
Okay, so
Bare bulb.
if the pole was halfway up, then wouldn't it be full filter?
Usually on a par
It'll
38,
depend
they're
on
not.
the angle that it's aimed.
Yeah.
Usually on a par 38 or an R40, they're at the, near the bottom of it, an inch or two
I
away
see.
from the bottom.
Okay.
Depends on what bulb, right?
With the bug rating,
Yeah, it
I know
can.
that people get confused about bug ratings, but would the bug rating of this be accurate?
I don't know, how can you have a bug rating if it's a knuckle adjustable fixture?
Well,
That's,
if it can't go
Yeah.
up that high, if there's only at a small angle. I'm trying to, if you guys, believe me, I trust you. If you guys say no, it's too hard to specify, fine. Don't shield it, but if the bulb is all the way up inside it,
It depends too, even if it's an R20, which is a much shallower bulb in a larger hat, as the light comes out, it's still going to refract off the bottom of that lens going upward. Most
that's
of
what
it,
I'm trying to understand. Where
most of it's going to be shielded, but not all of it.
I see.
I want
This
to
is
comment.
definitely better than a naked bulb, which is what a lot of people
It's
have.
probably better than a naked bulb. But is it truly fully shielded? I would say in most instances they are not. What I do in my own work when I run into this type of light, I usually count them, I really always count them as unshielded lighting, and then have to deal with them within the unshielded allowance. But
This is Clayton with the City of Tucson. So in practice, the city has not counted any adjustable lighting as full cutoff or fully shielded simply because it is adjustable. It may not be aimed upward during the inspection, but if it can be adjusted immediately after the inspector leaves, then it's not considered fully shielded from an inspection perspective. But I would also like to point out that the current definition as proposed for fully shielded refers to the lowest light emitting part of the luminaire. I don't think that the intent of this definition was to count any reflected surface, but rather the bulb. So I would just like to make that clarification, okay, because it's been stated that it would refract off of the inside of the fixture housing itself. And from the city's perspective, we wouldn't be counting that. We're counting where the housing covers the light emitting portion for the lamp.
it'd be reflected.
Yeah.
So yeah, it depends on the angle, because on a flood like that, you've got either an R40 or a Par 38 bulb in there. And, you know, that bulb was only going to come about that far from the bottom of the hood of that floodlight. Now, if they use a smaller bulb, an R20, then you probably have about that much distance. At that point, you're not going to have very much refracted light. And the whole bulb will be shielded, because even at that angle there, you know, it's going to be fully shielded by the fixture itself.
So we would just respectfully request some clarification so that the inspectors understand clearly
So-
the interpretation is.
What you described is consistent with what I thought the code was doing. And I think, I'm sorry, Craig, if I'm confused. I think you mean reflected, that it's like the light's reflecting off the inside, the bottom lip.
Right.
Okay, now I understand what's going on. It seems to me it seems to me overly complicated. But if you had a light bulb that was only 1/3 of the way down the tube, and there was no way to adjust it up, then that's fully shielded, as far as I'm concerned. But I agree with you. If you point it up here, then it becomes unshielded very
So-
quickly.
In the past, the city of Tucson has allowed adjustable fixtures to be permanently affixed in a location to qualify. So I just want to point out how the city has, in practice, enforced the definition of fully shielded.
And I've seen that done. You have a fixture on a knuckle, they unbolt it, put some JB weld in there and bolt it together, and it can't move anymore, and it's a downlight.
Yeah,
Short of that, it counts as unshielded. That's, I think, where we should go. Now, in fully shielded light fixture, we do say any structural part of the luminaire providing fully shielded angle shielding that shall be permanently attached. Maybe in the definition, we should say something more, or maybe definition isn't where a rule like that should be.
Yeah, I don't think it should be. I agree with what you just said.
So with respect to what Patty's asking for, I think the answer is the type of fixture being demonstrated would not count as a fully shielded light fixture.
I agree with that.
And the reason for the 30-degree aiming angle goes back to what we were talking about before on the light trespass. It's a prescriptive means to say, do it this way, which will cut down on the glare on adjacent properties. And can I quantify how much? No, but it will be less than if it's aimed higher.
Hey, Dennis, this is Dan. Just to copy on what Clayton said, the county looks at it the same way the city does.
Okay.
So everybody's aware.
So I think we don't need any action at this point on this, but we understand the issue. Let's see, another comment, Patty Hayes, section 403.6, illumination of the flag of the United States of America, nighttime illumination. I understand the importance of the USA flag But shouldn't these standards apply to any flag? Businesses like to install a state flag or their business flag. Shouldn't these standards apply to any flag installed on a pole? I'd like to answer that based on our subcommittee work. I think what's the most common way that flags are illuminated is from the bottom with light shining up on flags. And those are unshielded lights and they are subject to a curfew, meaning they have to be turned off at 11 p.m. There is, many people believe that the United States flag, if it's flown at night, must be illuminated. And for that reason, and I've heard contradictory evidence to that. There's actually a law that says you have to light it, but some people believe there is. And many people want that flag illuminated. So there was some pressure put on the subcommittee from, I don't even remember where, to deal with that. And we ended up saying light it from above. Now that has now become code though. So now you have to light the US flag from above.
If you like it.
If you light it. And we actually now do not give someone the choice to light it from below and subject to the curfew. So,
And all existing conditions are grandfathered in.
That's right.
unless 102.4.1 catches up with them, which
The
is,
replacement.
which is bring the whole thing into compliance with the current code if you do over a certain amount
Gotcha.
of development. And there's lots more to talk about that based on these comments. I mean, that section may not be able to hold the way it is, but we're not there yet. The point is whether we need to review the flag again. Quite honestly, I would prefer to have the option to light from below or above. And if we're from below, we're using up our unshielded lumens, which we're allowed to have. So we're putting it there instead of someplace else.
Does the code actually say just for the US flag, or is
It's saying US flag. That's all it's saying. It doesn't address other
it
flags.
doesn't prohibit, if someone wants to put a fully shielded light above the flag to illuminate the flag, that's legal.
Sure.
It's
I don't
legal
see-
now and always has been.
So I don't see why we need to start inviting people to argue about which flags are included.
Yeah, but
Is a healthy.
But now we have to do the US flag that way, don't have to do the others. And we don't have the option to light the US flag from below and then decide to let it go
Why do we have
unlighted.
to mention US flag at all? Why can't we just say,
Flag.
why do you light it from above, it's fully shielded, you don't have to,
Well,
light it from below?
this is all about the US flag, no other flag, simply the United States of America.
Flag. I'm
Is
saying.
what,
our code
is what it says in federal documents.
I never found that in a federal document. This is one of those things.
Well, we had that.
You found it?
It's somewhere. Yeah, I found it.
I don't
Maybe
remember.
I can-
I don't remember seeing that, but I didn't push the issue in sub.
Let's see if I can find it again. It's buried deep. So
Okay, I'm going to put a subcommittee thing next to this and say we'll talk about it in subcommittee again.
I'm just imagining future, like some poor future outdoor lighting committee being asked, you've approved 23 flags. We have 3 more. We want you to include that. I would rather have a lighting that doesn't bring in the flags, but allows the illumination of the flag.
because no other flag is in the US documents that I found. They make no mention of any other flag, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if the US flag mentioned, then I'm okay. But if it's not, if it turns out that it's not, then I'd like to just get rid of this. Because it's a complication it just creates.
Yeah, but remember, the thing is then if people keep lighting the flag from below,
It's unshielded light.
it's unshielded and then it has the curfew. And many people don't know all the details that are in our code. And they will say, I want that lit all night long, and they'll set the timer to light it all night long. And so,
So I appreciate the subcommittee figuring out if there's a federal law or not.
you know, I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah, this is Dan. Except if it was on residential property, it could be lit all night. Right? Because curfew doesn't apply to residential property.
Correct. Yes. Clayton, did you?
I just wanted, for the sake of time, there's a future item in our list provided from Fisher Ranch Stone that states, in our experience, this would not be preferred by the owner or the architect and result in both discomfort, glare, and possibly disabling glare for viewers of the flag, referring to folks that are looking up at the flag would be looking at the light if you're downlighting it. Just to save us going back over this issue when we get to that comment later.
Yeah, I remember that one. Why don't we refer it back to subcommittee? We'll settle it. We have
And just nothing that prohibits them lighting it below it, right?
the American flag would be prohibited from lit below because the rule is a rule which shall be lit from above.
I see.
For the future code, the existing
In
code,
present code, you can do whatever you want.
but it's limited to 50 watts, right?
Limited to 3,000 lumens.
Oh, we changed that to from
Yeah.
watts limits, okay.
Let's see, next comment, there was no name on this. If I need to read the whole thing, very concerned about lighting in the county, the Vale area, amount of growth, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, pro less lighting, that's a comment. Then we've got another comment. Next one is based on chapter 3.301. Please, less lighting, keep our dark skies. Please address 24/7 lights and the Speedway tractor supply. So there's a less lighting. Now we have another comment. The only name is Alex. And it's, I've been attacked by animals due to restrictive lighting laws. Will Tucson foot the bill? I've been a victim of burglary due to lighting laws. Will Tucson be responsible? Wouldn't the money being wasted here be better used to fund our police, repair our streets, fix so many streetlights, et cetera? So I would count this as a pro more lighting argument.
And pro having city pay their bills.
Then we have another comment with unnamed about chapter 1, section 107. Who is responsible for enforcing code violations? Under the current code, the city of Tucson has told us numerous times they are not responsible for enforcing the code with lights installed in an alley owned by the city that we requested to be shielded due to light trespass on our property. If the lighting code is not enforceable by the city or county, how are violations addressed? The revised code needs to specify who is responsible for enforcing the code. Light trespass has degraded our quality of life due to our inability to enjoy the evening darkness and sky. The bright street lights shine directly into our house windows. Please consider this code revision, how the public can easily report violations and have them actually addressed. Constituents should not have to contact multiple entities only to be passed back and forth for years with no resolution to a clear code violation. Thank you. My opinion on that is that it's really not in the lighting code. It's a code enforcement thing. And so it's more like the development services and the departments.
So are we allowed to list a link though to those services in the document that has the code?
I don't see why not.
Dennis, this is Dan. I actually responded to her and told her, asked her where exactly she lived. She told me it was in the city. So I have sent that to Clayton. Clayton's group too.
Yeah, so that's great that you're responding, but using her just as an example, if there's one person that feels this way, there's more.
Yeah.
So how do you help people find a place to complain? Are we allowed to put a note, code linking to your guys' enforcement?
This is Craig. Doesn't TEP and Clayton, doesn't TEP install those co-brand fixtures for you on their poles in alleys where people request them?
This is Clayton. TEP does have a program, I believe it's called Dusk Till Dawn lighting that can be requested and installed. This specific case, I believe, is referring to Dusk Till Dawn, but we haven't dispatched. We just got the address today, so we'll be looking into it more. It is possible that it is that. It is also possible that it's a City of Tucson street light, but the word alley was mentioned, so that's what's making me think it's probably a TEP light. We have had positive results requesting TEP to install house side shields where they are creating like trespass. And that's our assumed response to this situation in similar scenarios.
Yeah, I'm assuming that if she successfully reached the city, you guys would have dealt with it. But I'm just trying to figure out how to make it easy for people to reach you. So I just want to make sure I understood. Dan said, yes, we could add a link.
Or maybe something like for enforcement and violations, contact such and such. Maybe it needs to be worded. that way.
Isn't,
It may be more effective to have one of our generic emails placed simply because web pages change,
Sure.
web
Yeah.
forms change and
Sure.
things like that. Email addresses typically don't.
Mhm.
Well, we can say
Also-
contact the city of Tucson and County because she thinks somehow that it's not your job, but it is your job.
And I know that the code enforcement complaint form has recently been updated to include outdoor lighting specific complaints.
Excellent.
So, there is
Maybe-
forward advancement on that.
maybe mention of that there is a complaint form on the city and county's website or on city, on whatever we have that people can refer to that same location.
You look up the address, look up history, because months and months ago, I had a complaint, 14 feet like, now, 18.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
So on this last issue, talking about enforcing code violations, does the subcommittee need to put those words together? Is that something that you as staff could add as you're putting it together?
Well, I think we got two options. We could put something together. We also, I think, I'm not sure about city. The county has a outdoor lighting code web page specifically set up.
Yeah, maybe that's a better spot for it. It doesn't have to be in the code itself,
No,
but how do people go to get the code in the first place?
What I'm hoping for, and maybe it's not possible, but what I'm hoping is if someone downloads the PDF or is scrolling through the PDF, at somewhere in that document, it's going to see, this is the code. Enforcement, go somewhere else. But have it be in that document. Because if you don't know, then you're looking. You don't know to Google.
I guess I was just saying to get to the button that you push to download it on that page.
Sure,
It
that
should,
would-
tell-
yes,
it should
that would
tell
be
you
a-
that.
yeah.
But is that
But
enough?
if that
You're
page,
thinking,
but if that page exists, it's not that hard to have a line that after you've downloaded it,
okay,
that's the
so
same information.
Buell's advocating to have it in the code itself.
That's like the last page, For more information on enforcement or whatever, see.
Also following chapter 8, right at the back. end.
Or it can be in the beginning, I don't care, but
I was thinking just put it
I
right up front.
empathize
Okay.
with people. I
Yeah, I
empathize
get
with
it.
people that are trying to find information and get frustrated not finding it. And the only solution I know is to make it noted in more places.
Okay, we have a comment from Mary Jo Smith. We don't have hardly any streetlights where I live, and it's not very far from any drug infested neighborhood at 29th and Alvernon. I would love to see the lights still kept on there. Otherwise, I'm going to be scared to leave my house. Hopefully, I picked the right chapter to speak about. So, I guess I would comment to say that it sounds like what's missing is really city street lighting, which is right-of-way lighting, which is really not limited by the code. There are some prescriptive rules about not over-designing it and over-lighting it, but it's really not an outdoor lighting code thing, the fact that these lights aren't there and working. And I don't think there's anything in what we have in the code that's keeping these lights from doing what you want them to do. It's either a maintenance issue or maybe there's no street lights at all. And usually those go in improvement districts with the original neighborhood development. So I don't think it's our place to deal with it.
Clayton, this is Craig. Does the city have all of the residential in the county too, have all the residential fixtures change out from LPS and HPS to LED? Is that an ongoing program that you guys are still doing, or is that
I think
all
it's been
done?
done.
The street light project has been completed.
Okay, so she may have in that area LPS fixtures that no longer are bulbs aren't available anymore.
Well, they would have
They haven't
replaced them.
changed.
They would have replaced them with new.
But no, she's just saying there aren't enough streetlights. She says we have hardly any streetlights.
Well, they leave
But
them on.
it may not be maintained.
I said, I would love to see the lights still kept on there.
Yes, and the city doesn't turn
But
them off.
there are some neighborhoods, there's a problem with the copper wire theft that's putting lights out and
That's
perhaps
the other
other
thing too,
families.
this code may make people think that they're gonna have lighting removed.
But it isn't. That's the thing. Okay, but they're thinking
They're
about it.
thinking that, yes.
So that's a reach out and education thing.
Okay, so you're gonna go meet every single person in the city to
Well, we're
No,
gonna,
we're gonna pass it off to you.
I think we get our elected officials to do it. We go educate them.
Shall I move on? I don't, think there's anything that
We have to respond to that.
we can respond on. Next comment is from Christina Villasenor, Chapter 3, Section 301. We need more streetlights in Tucson. We don't feel secure. There are a lot more homeless people roaming around at night and there are no sidewalks. Why do we have to put up with this nonsense dark sky stuff? So,
Sounds like a county thing, Dan. No sidewalks.
again, it's the same response really. Our outdoor lighting code is not saying they can't have streetlights.
It just says you can't have unshielded streetlights.
Can't have unshielded, and in Chapter 8, there are some foot candle levels, but those are taken from the IES best practices, so that would be, that's not really holding back the street lighting and public right-of-ways. Now, I don't know what we can do about that, other than I think it's reinforcing, Buell, what you're saying is we need more words in the front end saying what it applies to and what it doesn't.
Or links to documents that help explain some of this stuff so that people can try and read about it.
Okay.
And it's nice to not have too much and that you're gonna have to edit every single time as a future revision.
Okay, our next,
But there is a nice report about the street lighting project, right? So, I'm thrilled to hear, Dan, that you've got a webpage now, so you could have a link, or I guess it was the city's program, but the city could have a link to how that turned out.
next. Okay, next comment is by Priscilla Storm, and it's a very long comment, and Priscilla's here. I don't know if you'd rather speak to it. I don't feel like I should have to read everything,
The
but
first part was just procedural, which,
sure.
we don't need to talk about today, but I do think it's important to have integrity in the procedures in terms of what stakeholders can expect. So that was, we have had notices not sent out, notices sent out, meetings canceled because there wasn't a quorum, meeting locations changed, big items like we're going to put this out for a public comment period that wasn't put on the agenda, but obviously city, county members of the committee knew it, but it didn't get placed on the agenda. And in general, I think as we move forward and we want to find a balance and a win-win between those of us that are property owners that are most impacted by these changes, have integrity, have trust and integrity in the process. So that's the first part of it. As it relates to some of the other comments, I've made those before and they'll come up later on again, as we work through the rest of the comments. So I don't think we need to deal with those today. Probably the one that I think might be the easiest to be considered is for there to be included in the ordinance a master lighting program option. It was done in the fine code so that when you have large projects that are multi-phased, that may go over decades, that will have common ownership, disparate ownership, tenants, transactions, that the property owner be able to submit a master lighting program that shows compliance with the intent of the ordinance. That was done with the sign code and seems to have worked for the county or city that have dealt with those master sign program applications as opposed to strict complaints. So that is something that hasn't come up and may have merit.
That's an interesting suggestion.
Yeah, I
Are
really
you
like
on-
that.
Are you on the sign code still? Or
No, I'm not. I
do
never.
we still, you are. Are you the only one that's on both?
Yes.
Can you give us a?
There hasn't been any meetings in years.
No, I was just.
It got to the point where you can kind of write code for these little one-offs. Your house should have 5 or 6 lights, 1,000 lumens. When you're dealing with 65 acres of stuff, you're not going to write it in this
No,
code.
no, I was wondering if you could give us a description of how you guys worded it in the sign code.
I couldn't tell you verbatim. It's been.
No, I know, I'm not,
There was 2 programs we had. One was, I just remember there was 2 levels, kind of a smaller project and then a bigger project. I just remember we split it up into 2.
yeah, no, and this was not just lighting, of course, this was everything about the sign, right?
Yes.
Dennis, this is David with the county. I can talk to Tom Drzowski, who at the time was the chief zoning inspector that was in charge of the county's sign update. See how they did the master plan program signs.
Yeah, I didn't work on the counties. I worked with the city of Tucson. So we did ours first, and the county came in later and revised theirs.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I feel like for our present subcommittee to go into that whole area is a bit much for us, yet I actually think it's a really, really good
Well, yeah,
idea.
no, I like
because
that.
these bigger projects are a completely different thing, and how do you get compliance
but I was-
over the long term of getting that project built?
What I was hoping you could do is if they already did the hard part of defining
Yeah.
what a major project was,
I
or something
can
like
get
that.
the excerpt from the master sign program and I'll do it while you guys move on. I'll forward it to Clay and to Dan. And it does get updated. So you submit a master sign program and say, this is what we think we want to do on this campus. And then buildings change and tenants change and, the phasing changes. And then you update the master sign program again. And I believe in the sign code ordinance, it has a list of things that an application for a master sign program has to include.
Yeah, I think that could really be beneficial.
So about the subcommittee, I can't believe I'm suggesting this. Should we form a separate subcommittee just to work on the big project definition and everything else? So that, or do you want to stick it in the?
I don't know. I mean, we could hit it superficially and maybe see what Priscilla has for us. And if it looks like it's just going to overwhelm us on that, then maybe we need to
I'm
hand
happy
it
you
off
guys doing
somewhere
it.
else.
It's just, I know you have a lot.
Yeah, I just thought that maybe you could do it, Buell, and then turn it over to the subcommittee, then we'll review it.
I'm happy to turn it over to the whole committee.
In Priscilla's comment, there was also issues about addressing the 25% or more projects. And there's more comments further on that address that. And I think maybe we talk about those when we get there. I don't know if we'll get there today, but I think there may be work we have to do on that. And I think we're going to have more discussion.
Before you leave that though, this is lumen cap per acre. I mean, that's what it is now. Right?
Yeah, I think some of the concern here was about there's a perception that the proposed lumen caps is such a too drastic of a drop from where they are now, and that we're overreaching.
I still think this is a failure of our ability to communicate that the biggest change is because of the change in the technology. And I don't know how we've been trying to explain that for 5 years now and failing. So.
And there's opposing views that just don't believe.
I know.
It may be we still need some type of compromise on that. I don't know.
I do think that there's a recognition by the acted and regulated property owners The purpose of this is to adjust between the halogen incandescent fluorescent to LED. I think, and an understanding about the color temperatures in that transition. I think our challenge has been, the most important thing to us is that the public safety aspect for employees and customers and the actual amount of physical light on the ground not be reduced in this transfer that addresses technology. And we are consulting with our lighting engineers, and there is not a consensus that what is being proposed by the committee is translating solely for the adjustment for the LED technology, and that lighting is being reduced partly with the adjustment to amber, which has its own set of concerns for property owners. But everybody understands the concept and agrees to it. It's just, is what is being proposed actually doing that, or is it going further? So there hasn't been any, there's 2 years ago, a year ago, there was, please demonstrate that lights can be adequately lit under the standard that you're proposing. And that continues to be a question.
I really appreciate how clearly you present that, and I would agree with you that the dominant, I'm going to change slightly what I said, the dominant change is the technology. But it's also true, in my opinion, obviously, that in the past we've had things in the code because we compromised, we allowed higher levels than were needed for safety or bluer light than was needed for safety because there weren't available technologies to implement an alternative. I know I want what you started off at the very beginning. You don't want the safety to be diminished by this. I totally agree with that. And so I really appreciate the way you started off by identifying that you understand one of the major reasons we're changing this was the switch to LED. And now we have to work now on explaining the amber and some of the other things. I still don't think we're ever going to converge on, it's not quite as bad as asking 100 lighting engineers for their opinion and getting answers. You're always going to get different answers. And so I think until we can identify places in the city or the county that has lighting we think is good, code compliant, and safe, and people can go visit them, I think it's going to be very hard to do modeling or designs.
I think the challenge is those of us that have projects in the queue, every time there is a revised or draft table to the 401.1, we ask a very simple question. Can you design our next project under this standard? And we use credible lighting engineers, folks that you guys all work with and respect, one that are respectful of dark sky preservation. And when they come back and tell us, no, we can't, that is a real concern for us. And so we're going to continue to do that every time there is a revision. And we've done it again with the table that was proposed in September. And there are problems for projects that are in the queue under the current proposed 401.1.
Have you had any contact with any of these engineers? I'm not.
No, nobody's contacted me direct.
We have asked.
This is Clayton with the City of Tucson. The external consultant that was hired by the city and the county have been requested to perform similar analysis. We provided them with multiple different case scenarios of actual building plans that have been submitted to either the city or the county. So they have,
That's fantastic. Okay.
but it's real world submittals that we have received that have space, size, lot size, lighting designs already included, and we've requested that they model those under the new proposed tables in different lighting zones, specifically the more restrictive ones, to ensure that the proposed tables can still function. They are actively working on that. We've spoken to them recently. They they are actively working on it, but it is taking them a little bit of time. We may wind up with additional models as we continue to work through that, with additional suggestions that may come back to the subcommittee. So apologies for the delay. It was heard and is being produced.
That's terrific.
I would add one thing. This is Dan. I'd add one thing just for your comfort, Priscilla. When we met with them, the way they're designing it, specifically the way you want it, they're they're complying with the ISE standard or IES standards before they continue.
Well, we had a community neighborhood shopping center, mixed use with multifamily housing on Rocking K North that is in E2, specifically designed to meet some of the initiatives in the Prosperity Initiative and in Pima Prospers that, is a particular concern in terms of us reviewing the latest draft with Monrad Engineering.
Great. Thanks. Okay, next comment, we have several from Alex Zimmerman.
You the same Alex that kept up by the animal?
No, this is Alec with a C. That was Alex with an X.
Just making sure.
Yeah, don't mix me up
Oh,
with
he is
that
a
guy.
committee member, but he's representing Zona Technical Engineering on the comments, apparently.
We got the sound working, Alec. I think we can hear you now.
Perfect. Yeah, I said I have not been attacked by an animal, so I'm not that same person. Okay. So Dennis, you want me to just take over on my comments, or do you want to read through them?
Yeah, why don't you take over on your comments and so we can hear you out on.
Perfect. So this first one is actually exactly what Clayton was talking about and what Priscilla was talking about. Has a photometric analysis been conducted to confirm if the new lumen caps for options 1 through 3 tables work on a standard project? The foot candle values should meet the minimum IES recommended light levels. It is important to limit unnecessary lumens in Pima County, but it is also important to provide safe light levels that meet industry standards. So I believe, based on Clayton's response, this is the consultant that has been hired is working on this. So I don't think there's anything to discuss here unless anybody has any other comments.
Sounds good.
The only comment I would have is just the question, are we really meaning that 100% of the area of every single project needs to be illuminated? I don't believe that's always the case. For example, you get the roof area included in your allowable lumens, but the lights that you don't put on the roof, you can put around the building and get higher light levels. Now that only works if you have a project that has a building on a site, but that's why I suspect that you can greatly exceed IES recommended levels in many cases with these new lumen caps, at least in area E3. E2 will be problematic, as will the E1s. If you're having intense development in those areas, I suspect it may be a problem, and it is a problem already.
Yep, and I agree with everything you said, but I think it's worth looking at what the industry standard is for light levels. And again, like we've talked about in past projects, not every project's the same. Everything's a little bit different, but this is more information that can inform us based on what our lumen reductions are and the tables we're proposing.
Okay. Your next comment is on page 11, and the subcommittee will take care of that typo.
Yep, super small. Just saw it in there and wanted to point it out.
That was a test and you passed. Thank you very
I
much.
passed.
Was that the second comment about the,
This now,
Now, I type now instead of no.
no, it doesn't matter. It's been, if you look at the new draft, it's been X'd out.
no, it's still in. It's still in.
And, that's Priscilla's draft, or sorry, Greater Vale Chambers.
Oh,
Draft
okay.
that
So
they-
the one you gave me is not the current one then?
Well, that was that's public comment.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, that one's public comment. And I'm sorry, I didn't print the new code for you. Sorry, I screwed up on that.
No worries, just don't let it
Yeah,
happen.
some stakeholders provided markups on the draft document itself. Others provided comments. We just took the comments from markups. We did not get to Greater Vale Chambers markups before today's meeting. So we are in the process of adding them. They're just not included in the actual spreadsheet. So just so everybody had them, I sent the document today.
All right, next one is 102.4.2. I just want to make sure I'm clear on what this exception is saying. So I'm asking to provide additional detail on item number 4, and it's saying any existing unshielded lighting within this developed area shall be removed. So that is the entire developed area. You know, there is the word this developed area, so I'm assuming this is the new boundary you have set for this renovation or addition. But
Yeah, Alex, our intent was that it would be the developed area for that addition project or that remodel project. So it'd be the custom developed area.
perfect. And
Now-
that's what I read, but it's just the word this, I just didn't know if there was a better way to
You think
state.
it does- So we'll look at that in subcommittee, see if we can clarify the wording.
No problem.
But your first part was talking about adding additional doors on some projects, and that's where the exception number 1 was in the code. It's already in the 2012 code to try to address that
Yep.
item. That's right now in 2012, that's only applicable or on even in the new code on 5 acres or more. So I suspect that not many people are going to use that, and they'll use the second exception. But we left the other in as a legacy.
Yeah, and I just have struggles with that because, you know, with the 5 acres and the limited lighting areas, you know, from a designer's perspective, we need to meet the NFPA 101 life safety code that is requiring egress lighting outside of exit doors. So what I'm proposing is to remove this or to add a stipulation within the code and saying if a fully shielded fixture is added above a door to meet this code requirement, then no lighting calculations should be needed.
We'll talk about that in subcommittee again. Maybe we can do that. I don't know. We just to give you the history on that though, when that first exception went in a prior code, there was an awful lot of pushback for that from the observatory side. They really didn't like the idea of something going in with the fear that it would get out of control. People keep adding and adding and adding and no cap on it. I think in practice that doesn't happen. I think it's actually pretty rare that people take that exception. But
Yep. And I think it's just
we'll talk about it again.
Perfect. I just think it's important to note that this is a life safety issue, right? So this should only be applied to where exit doors are added in. So these are very specific requirements, but this happens when somebody buys a building and they change the inside and the hallway changes and they need to do, you know, add a new exit door or the occupancy changes, right? So yeah, I feel that there's a need for this.
So I think there's obviously a need for light where the door is. The question is if the total light can be adjusted some other place if you're up against the limit.
Correct. I guess
Fully
it's just more,
shielded though, why would it matter?
Fully shielded.
Would fully shielded, required by code due to egress, it makes sense, Alex.
Then why is it's not prohibited by the code if it's fully shielded? Why do we have to change
you
the
need
code?
to do a full analysis. You know, depending on where you fall within these requirements, a full analysis may be required. Where I'm saying if it's required by the NFPA 101, a lighting analysis on the site should not be required if this is all we're adding.
We could change that as an exception, Dennis.
Yeah, we'll talk about exception 1 in subcommittee. We could probably I would advocate doing what you're saying. I'm just concerned about the dark sky advocates. They really pushed against this exception when it first went in. And maybe I've got that burden on me. I'm still carrying that. I'm pretty
Is that
successful.
why you walk funny?
Let's see.
All right, next one is
So you
let's see,
know-
106.2. So this is talking about the special inspections. Is the 100,000 or 75%? Is that for allowable lumen? Is that new or existing or new and existing? I've got this question a handful of times when people are asking to do inspections and just want to make sure it's clear within the code.
Sorry, yeah, I'm hearing dead silence on that, so I'll jump in again. I guess my opinion is it would be the total lumen.
And I think that's
So
fine. I just think we need to
that'd
be
be new
clear on
plus
what that
existing.
means. Okay. I'm good either way. I just think being clear on that so that people know when special inspections are required, they have something to go back to. All right. Next one is for chapter 6. I kind of jumped around a bit here. Sorry about that. 601, please confirm what other areas are included in recreational facilities. There's a good amount of exterior amphitheaters, exterior concert venues that I don't think are captured within this area. So I didn't know where amphitheaters or concerts fall within this code.
So right now, it's chapter 2 has a definition for a recreational facility. So if it's allowed, it would be in chapter 2 under a recreational facility. And I don't believe it says that. It says baseball, soccer, football, golf, tennis, swimming pools, equestrian, and racetracks of any sort. So the question would be whether a performance venue type of facility would also qualify. So I don't know how the committee feels about that.
And this is a list of exemptions of places regulated.
Yeah, so it's chapter 6, which is the recreational facilities, which exempts the lighting for those specific things from the lumen caps, and it's exempted from color temperature limits.
But
then it's subject to a curfew.
It's just turn off, right?
Then it has the curfew, and then it's still allowed to have lighting that meets the code otherwise to be operated as ordinary outdoor lighting. But if you're going above the lumen cap or want a different color temperature, then you're subject to this. And so within chapter 6, it doesn't actually say what recreation facilities are, but it is defined in definitions.
And my interpretation is it's more sporting based than recreational based, right?
Yeah, it seems to be that way.
But that just reflected what people were suggesting. The problem with making lists is they just become more narrow and specific. So
Yep.
It would be better if we could have a more generic definition. The problem with when it gets too generic is everything's included. It'd be better if we could say outdoor spaces where people come together to interact for the purposes of sports, music, whatever. That would be better, but I don't know how then someone starts arguing about the definition.
They put loudspeakers in their parking lot and say, we're together to listen to the music.
That's at some level, that's fine. If while they're there, then when they leave, they turn the lights off, right? I mean, the code is not trying to have people stop having fun. The code is trying to stop people from having lighting when they don't need it.
Well, I've had to deal with church projects and school projects that have had amphitheaters, and I've included all the lighting in those areas under lumen cap on my plans, and I've subjected them to the color temperature limits. Now it's 3,500 K, but practically it's 3,000 K. And that's how we've done it.
So Alec, are you having trouble lighting something? Is there an example of something that's a problem?
Yeah, great question, Buell. So we're working on the Reed Park amphitheater that has an actual stage concert venue permanently installed outside, and we're going through doing lighting upgrades. And I couldn't find a way to fit within this code. I initially thought that we would live under the recreational facility section, but after reading it, I didn't think that we fit there. So I figured this would be a good time to bring it up, and
I
naturally,
think it's a
it
great.
feels like it should be in this
I think
section.
that's something that hasn't come up.
Yeah, I think it's great to have a specific example that we can use to think about it. So can we ask the subcommittee to use his example to?
Yeah, and it's a good example because I don't think it's the intent to prohibit outdoor lighting for
it's
that
not.
type of use.
Yeah.
But
Yes, and
the
this
trouble
project
is-
is a good example in many different ways because of the developed area and parcel size, right? It's the golf course, it's the zoo, it's the park. So it's
Well, I was
definitely a good
hoping it would
example.
qualify. I was hoping it would qualify in the same kind of major project that Priscilla was talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's kind of going the other way where we would use the ability to draw a developed area around the project as opposed to having to count the entire Reed Park and document every single light in that, which is
That
gets to
might
be
be the right,
ridiculous.
that might be the right
100%
solution.
agree.
But still the problem is, so Alec draws that developed area, but then you have an intense light usage at the actual band shell.
And if it's all unshielded, that's actually much worse.
Well, you're gonna have.
Exactly. It's
you got your stage
unshielded, it's
light.
angled to the stage, right? There's a lot of light for the stage. So it wouldn't, knee jerk, it's not going to meet your standard E3 required lumen levels, especially for unshielded.
Yeah, I'm thinking we need to have an exemption for that because if you have an outdoor performance venue, the theater lighting, the stage lighting aspect of it.
Well, the stage lighting is just on the stage.
Right.
But all the seating, which could be really big,
Yeah.
how bright is that gonna?
But that doesn't need the high light levels there.
I know, but if you give an
Exactly.
exemption to the whole area, then you're giving exemption to the whole area.
Yeah, I know. That's why we got to think about
Yeah.
how to
It's like
do it.
using
But
that-
it's not just.
Understanding how far above the current code what is now, why it was impossible, would also be useful to know.
Mhm.
And
And
Bill, I
it's-
think those are all
it's-
good comments. What I was intending to do is hopefully the band shell would fall under the recreational area, and then all of the seating or standing areas would be in your general lumen level caps.
Yeah, I
But how
think
do you
that sounds
define
very
that?
reasonable. But
Yeah.
the problem is once we write it down, somebody's gonna give us another example. and everything
I know.
So it needs a little bit of thought.
Yeah, we can try. Clay,
Just as a point of time associated for the meeting today, I just want to point out that we've been going for slightly over an hour already. And I believe there was an intent to hear any public comments from
That's a good reminder.
participants. Perhaps we could pause and hear from anybody that might.
you mean attendees?
Correct.
I would note that in our comments, Alec has one more comment. And then there's quite a number that are from our lighting consultant, and perhaps we could put those off. And then there's just a few more public comments after that. So we're probably fairly close.
But yeah, we want to answer.
Yeah.
Yes, just, how about Alex, last one?
And,
Yeah, why
and
don't-
also went ahead and reserved the room past 3 o'clock for us. Should you decide to run the meeting long, you have that opportunity, but some folks that might be attending online might not have
Sure.
time past 3.
Sure. I think we could hit Alec's last comment and then pause. So that's your one on the 2200K.
Yep, and this is Alec, and yeah, I'm open to stay past 3 if that's what if that's what's needed. I know there's a lot of comments. All right, so next comment is regarding the option 2 for 2200 Kelvin. I've reached out to national manufacturers to confirm what type of commercial grade 2200K products are available for procurement. The overall message that I've received is that it is not a standard Kelvin rating for most fixtures, and that manufacturers can provide them. But it's a custom application. This type of request has a huge impact on the construction community that can cause added charges, lead time issues, and issues with replacements. It is recommended that the section be switched to 2700 Kelvin, which is still not as accessible as 3000 Kelvin fixtures, but more accessible than 2200 Kelvin.
And Alex, this is Craig, it'll still be a number of years before those manufacturers even come close to having anything reasonably dollar-wise viable for the market.
It's just an option.
You know, custom, every site that gets done, they have to have custom light fixtures. That is absolutely cost prohibitive.
This isn't a requirement, it's an option.
They're unavailable, except by custom.
That's right, but we seem to revise the code once every 15 years. So this is looking to the future, it's giving incentives to go in this direction. Maybe no one will take it up, but it's not a requirement to do this, but there is another way.
Correct. You know, we have the other ways you can still use 3000 K or 27, whatever it is. It's a much lower lumen level.
Let me try to hit that real brief, and then we'll go to the public comment. The issue is the lumen cap. If we're going to make an adjustment to the 3000 K lights, that number is going to come down. I think there are a great number of people that are unhappy with where our lumen table is right now, in the 3000 Kelvin.
Right.
The point is that for 2200 Kelvin, we didn't bring the lumens down. They are where they were for the 3000 K under the 2012 code. So if you want your 250,000 lumens per acre of warm white light, 2200 K, you can still do that and not be subjected to a lower lumen cap, but it's purely your option to do so. You're not required to use that light at all. But you'll be making that choice then. If you want higher illumination levels, you would choose to use the warmer light. If you want 3000 Kelvin light, then you'll have to accept lower illumination levels.
Well, we don't know what the final recommended levels are going to be. That's why the consultants doing their modeling. That's why we're getting
exactly. But that's where it's at. I think what Alex real concern is that the 3000 lumen numbers are too low.
Right. So, well, I mean, he wants a viable choice, and he's not viewing either of these as viable yet.
Yeah.
He's not viewing the lower temperature one as viable because of the lack of availability of product, and he doesn't view the 3000 as viable because he thinks the lumen is too low. Is that fair?
Cost is too high.
Without seeing the photometrics, that's what I'm assuming, but the photometric analysis will be able to prove if those lumen levels will meet the photometric foot candle requirements. My real comment here is, yes, you're giving us another option 2, but it can't be done without a exorbitant amount of extra cost, lead times, all kinds of hurdles. The current code is at 3500 Kelvin, so even going to 2700 Kelvin is a big drop. I've always designed my project to be at 3000 Kelvin, even with the max being at 3500. But the comment here is to make it more applicable for the industry and what fixtures are out there. 2700 feels like the more natural cutoff for that chart, for option 2 chart.
Yeah, but if we were at 2700, then you're not going to get the full lumens. Then we have to cut those lumens down, and then the difference between 2700 and 3K is quite small, actually. So then what's the point of it? We might as well drop the 2200K option and end up at where we were before. You're either in amber, full-blown amber, or 3000K. So we still may end up at that point.
Well, I still like leaving the 2200 in there, just as Buell said, because it's a future option that isn't really viable today, but will be in the future. The problem I have is the lumens were dropped on 3000K 64% from their current levels, which, I said in the meeting many times, that's way too much reduction in lumens for that particular Kelvin level.
Well, this is why I'm excited to hear that not only are people getting their own modelers, Okay, that's valuable. But so is the city. And I think once we have some of these real examples from the consultant, we can try to also find some places in town that are close to that. So it's very hard to look at tables and really have confidence that we're all understanding the same thing. But if you can see a design or go physically see a site, you know, we want a version in the code that does everything Alec and Priscilla want to do. But we also want to incentivize. I mean, some people, one of the people that reached out to me after the last outdoor lighting code committee said, we're willing to spend more money to do better. We want to have an option for them.
Which is why I think leaving that 2,200 in
And we
there
need
is
to-
fine.
Just the
But we
3,000.
cannot reduce
I
that
agree.
3,000 as much as it's being reduced. 64% from the current levels now is a big, huge drop.
Yeah, I like the original intent when we started on this revision a long time ago, which was to try to correct abuses, not prohibit things that are already existing. So I think we're on the right track, but I don't know exactly what the right percentage is yet.
I do. You
Well,
calc it out.
Okay.
Alex, we
Yeah.
design our sites at 3,002, even though code is 3,500. I like that type of light, that color of light, the availability of fixtures. I'd prefer not to, definitely don't want to go to 2,200, but if it's a future thing, I'm fine with that. And then what's the difference between 2,700 and 3,000? Squat. I would recommend keeping it at 3. The fixtures are available. There's going to be that next jump at 2,200 at some point.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one thing that I would implore the subcommittee to think about is, remember, we're also requiring a photo or a lighting control that cuts it down to 50%, which is not in any of these calculations, right? So when Craig is saying that it's getting reduced 64%, and then during most of the night it's going to be dropped down 50% of that, I think the lighting controls and shutting down 50% is going to have the biggest impact, more than any of these tables or anything else that will help with that sky glow. And then we're doing all of this reduction on top of it. So I just caution these tables, and I look forward to seeing the photometrics because, you know, we definitely want to honor our dark skies, and they are very important, but safety should be equally as important as well.
Blake?
This is Clayton with the City of Tucson. I would also put out there for consideration that the differences in lumen values between the different lighting areas are pretty significant. So reducing all of the lighting areas an equal percentage may not necessarily have the best effect. So perhaps looking a little bit closer at the E3 and E3A areas for a greater percentage of reduction, as opposed to the E1s and possibly the E2s with less of a reduction, may have a greater impact in the overall sky glow for the region by reducing the highest percentage, the greatest drop in the highest volume light area.
Mhm. We have already done that though, because we did not make a major change to E1 areas. They stayed where they were, or they were extremely slight reductions. E2 did get affected some, but not as badly as were listed in some of the other comments that came in, but it was affected more. And the major reductions occurred in E3 and E3A. I think what we really need to look at is option 3, the 3,000K option. And can we bring those numbers up and not adversely affect the dark sky? Because nobody's going to use option 2.200K. Bring those numbers up on 3K, option 2 will be the unused option. And as
but in
quite frankly,
2012, people told me they never used 3,000.
Yeah.
Right?
Technology's changed.
Exactly.
well, the one thing that happened with the 3,000 is the lights became. Anyway, I think we need to stop here though, because we need time for a call to the audience. for those concerns. So why don't we put a pause on this item and move on to the call for comments from the participants.
And let's start with the room while I put something in the chat for anybody that's online. So do we have anyone in the room that'd like to make a public comment?
So I do. My name's Cody. Hi, committee and staff. I'm with Clear Channel Outdoor, and as a business community member, just wanted to echo my concerns about some risks. I noticed that the Greater Vail Chamber submitted a letter, and so did the Southern Arizona Chamber. So they're essentially echoing some of those risks that were identified in those letters. I do have a one sheet that I'm happy to provide. I don't know if this is the forum to do that, or I'm happy to also go online and submit it that way as for public record. But in addition to just listing some key risks, also wanted to talk about the economic impact that this may have. So I wanted to just provide a sample of what an upgrade might cost to a mid-sized commercial site. So I just want you as a committee to take that under consideration of what the actual cost would be for someone who has an existing site to bring this into compliance.
You don't have to be brought into compliance.
If, like, let's say, for instance, right now, the 25% change happens at bringing the site into compliance, that's just something we wanted to bring in. I do have copies here.
How much is it?
For a mid-sized commercial site, so that would be about 5 to 8 acres. Estimate with all the photometric permitting, labor, fixture controls, and fixtures about $100,000.
And how much was the original installation?
I don't have that. I'm just talking.
It's hard to evaluate an increased cost without the context of, is it a 1% increment or a 25% increase or a 75% increase?
I think my point was, if an existing site has to bring it into compliance.
There's always more cost when you have to bring something into compliance because you're replacing something, you're buying something. That's a cost.
Sure, it's just a concern.
I appreciate it. For us, every time the Sky Glow increases 1%, that's 1% on 560 million a year. So we can give you the context and an efficiency loss for the dark skies and for astronomy. We're also an industry.
Well, I do have a one sheet here. If I could.
Take a copy, I'm all in the paper.
If not, I'm happy to
If
send
you have enough for all the committee members, we
Yeah.
can take them and then it should go to Dan and Clayton and they can make sure.
Cody, thank you. If you want to just email it to me.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
But I'll take
I'll give you the hard copy.
Greg will take one.
Councilman
I'll
Dennis,
take one.
okay.
Here's 10 copies.
Cody, we appreciate it. You haven't put on that.
Thanks.
You want one?
All depends, Cody, how many fixtures is this based on?
So it was just an example of an existing commercial mid-size. So probably,
I think there might
give
be
you an
two
example
there.
of 100 fixtures.
100 poles? Got cheaper over time.
Yeah, it could cost more than that, I would think.
Oh, yeah, 100 poles?
I
Absolutely.
think it costs more.
I think the preference is that new construction abide by the new standard and that existing construction be grandfathered. That's going to be the position.
That's the code.
But it isn't if they hit
If they
that
change.
25% threshold.
Right.
And it's a pretty liberal definition of what is 25%. If it's parking spaces, if it's light fixtures, if it's,
Developed area.
yeah, you know, all, so that,
So I'm all for looking at what the 25% threshold is to sell. But to argue that to comply with the new code costs more is always going to be true.
now, it has to do with the clawback provision that is the trigger that is currently on the 25%. And for several years, the attorney had said violated by statute, and that legal letter has been submitted.
That is this one.
Grandfathering existing developments and complying new construction, complying with the current standard is not the issue. The issue is the clawback.
Bringing back the whole thing. Okay.
And it's even more complicated by how do you consider the whole project when you have a multi-acre, multi-phase, multi-building structure that is under some common ownership and disparate ownership. So if that was gone, that clawback provision, you know, that everybody gets new construction, new code.
I have a question on that though, because what I see on old sites are that they are not truly grandfathered. Because my understanding of how it's supposed to work is that you've permitted, you've got a legal site was built 40 years ago. You met all the codes. Now you look at it today, and maybe from an overall look, it's the same. But those are not it's the same lighting positions, it's maybe the same wiring running to them, but the light fixture itself, at some point in time, a contractor was hired to come out and replace the lights. And now that they've replaced them, they're either brighter or the different color temperature. They're not the same as what was existing. So now you have an altered existing condition that was never permitted and may not have met the code that happened at the time when that alteration happened, but perhaps the time when the alteration happened isn't even known. So how would you even know when it happened, other than sometimes you can figure out about the age of things. So, you know, somebody takes what was a legal building, or project, they alter it so it's truly not code compliant anymore, but now we want to say, well, it's existing, so we don't have to go back and fix anything. But when it was altered, it made it worse than it was originally. I think that's part of the astronomers are worried about, is the continuing increase of these old. Now, I can contrast that though with back in the year 2000, they wanted a sunset on outdoor lighting, saying 10 years from an adoption date, everybody changes all their lights out. And that was clearly, you couldn't do that. But this is how the 25% thing became the compromise at that time.
See,
And we're trying to balance that.
I think this idea of having a management plan for these large projects is really, I'm very intrigued by this, because I think that's a way of, I don't know the exact wording yet, but it's a way of trying to manage the intent. It's minimize costs on the business owner, maximize adaptability, while not having it ratchet up. Because you're right, the big concern, sort of the worst case scenario, it's in some comments in here, is you start doing infill. If the first house used all the lighting, and then they build a new casita, and they need lighting too, they need to have their doors safe and everything else. And you don't know that you're already at the limit. You just keep ratcheting it up. So that's what we're trying to figure out is how, and most people agree you don't need to ratchet it up. Just light on the door.
And that was, yeah, I agree. And I'm happy to work on it, because codes are typically written for one property owner, one structure, right? That's, but the big impact to economic sustainability, is all of the state land that is in the city of Tucson that is being replanted, that is going to be large acreage, multi-phased campus projects, you know, and this code doesn't really fit for that. Those types of projects have to submit very expensive master plans for hydrology, for soil, for everything else. And so what we're saying is, don't try to make those kinds of projects fit into this code, because it's upsetting to us, you know, and because we want to help preserve the dark sky, but we also feel like we're under attack and bearing the major burden of protecting the observatories at our expense and cost. And there's another way to do it. You know, so we should think, I know everybody has deep fatigue because of how long this committee has gone on. But we want to get it right as much as we want to get it over with, particularly when we're talking in 2025 of the 2012 code. And I'll probably be here in 15 years from now, so that you may not be. But
The young man when this started.
I think that there's an option.
But the clawback, 25% versus 100%, that's gonna apply even to individual properties.
Well, I mean, there is another alternative that I'm pretty confident would run afoul of state law if this is, and that is just more inspections. Because what you were describing where something has gone out of compliance because there's been no census for 25 years. If you had to have an inspection to show that you're compliant, that would be cost. That's a different price.
Yeah. I think we're still looking for comment from the audience.
Good Executive University on behalf of the Arizona Multi-Housing Association, Southern Arizona Home Builders. We'd like to echo a lot of the comments that you saw in the letters from both chambers. We still have some serious concerns about public safety. And of course, I was around back when File Pro and we were working on home optics valley, things like that. This industry is important to us. But also, and Dennis, you know where I'm going with this because I go there every time. We're also very concerned. We have a housing affordability crisis in our community right now. And that $100,000 may not seem like much, but we also have increasing impact fees. We've got EV ordinances. We've got the new potential IECC code coming down the line. And it's all building up. And we have to make sure we're able to get through so many. I appreciate your openness discussing this. And one other question, just logistically. So these comments are then going to go back to the subcommittee, back to this body, or what?
So this group has to finish getting through all the public comments to sort of help the subcommittee know what they go do. And subcommittee produce yet another version.
Yeah, we'll have to put words.
Dennis, can we go through the rest of the comments ourselves in subcommittee and then respond to them in subcommittee, not full committee?
I guess we could, but I think we want.
I mean, it's hard to get. It's hard for the public to hear the discussion in the subcommittee, right? It's not a public meeting.
No, it can be a public meeting.
You can make it a public meeting.
This is Clayton with the City of Tucson. There's certainly nothing wrong with the subcommittee diving into the public comments. I would like to point out that the public comment period still has time left on this public time period, but I think that there is tremendous value for the public comments to be heard by the entire committee.
Agreed.
I would prefer that if we can get enough meetings scheduled to do it without interfering with your golf game. So.
How dare you? Well, my foot's interfering with my golf game.
And not to take anything away from the highly qualified members of the subcommittee, but as impacted private property owners, present and future, we're not represented in the subcommittee, and a lot of that work is done there. So we speak at the call to the audience in these meetings, and I know that the members of the subcommittee are cognizant of our issues, so I'm not trying to take anything away from it. But again, when we talk about procedure and trust and credibility and those kinds of things, it is one of the things that, the full diversity of perspectives on this issue is not necessarily a member of the subcommittee.
So I have a question that someone asked me about, and I've been waiting for this to ask, if I could ask it, which is for homeowners associations where there's common areas that's owned by the homeowners association. Who is legally the responsible person? The homeowners association for the lighting of those common areas? And how do you calculate fair lumen cap if the common areas are like mailboxes, fountain fixture,
The other challenge in that
Landscape.
landscape, yeah.
Pima County requires a license agreement with the homeowner association for the maintenance of the public roadway right of way, including that lighting. So not all of the land that is the responsibility of the homeowners association, including the lighting, is owned by the homeowners association. But it is managed under a license agreement in order to save operation and maintenance costs for the Pima County taxpayers.
So may I jump in on this?
Sure, sure.
Thank you. So,
Please state your name for the record.
sorry, Eloise Gore, and I'm with a homeowners association in the foothills, and I've commented and discussed things before. We are preparing comments. We have a draft. We're working on it, and we will submit it as soon as it's finished, which will be before the deadline. So our particular homeowners association, this is not unique. The roads are private. They belong to the association. And we have a significant amount of common area, some of which has lighting, some of which doesn't, some of which it has a landscape or mailboxes or any number of things. It's a significant acreage that the HOA is responsible for and happy to be responsible for lighting and making it look nice. So I thank Buell for mentioning it, but we find that the draft is not grasping what I think is probably planned communities, a pretty big chunk of what happens in the city and also in the rest of Pima County. So that's a general comment, and we're going to try to highlight the things that were and are and aren't in the draft. That could try to clarify some things for the homeowners association. I have a specific comment also, which is in our comments, but I know you talked about it a little bit. I missed the answer, I'm afraid. The partially shielded depictions. What was the answer? Are partially shielded fully shielded or unshielded or?
They're unshielded. They're
They
unshielded.
are unshielded. Okay, so you're going to change. We love the little pictures and the depictions, but you're going to change that so that it's a clear yes or no.
Yes, keep the three pictures as they are. The heading underneath each of them, it'll be unshielded. I'm sorry. Yeah, unshielded, unshielded, and fully shielded from left to right. So the one in the middle will, instead of saying partially shielded, it will say unshielded.
Oh, okay. And then similarly, there's that wonderful big picture that you have, the big illustration that you have that has all the different kinds of light and reflected light and all sorts of things. There wasn't anything that we could see that said what's covered and what's not covered. So which are the things that are prohibited and which are the things that are allowed? So it's nice to have all those kinds of things labeled. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that suggestion. I think one of the problems is most of those things are allowed. It's just how much of them is allowed. So you're allowed some unshielded lighting.
In most areas.
But this was reflected lighting, like reflected from the sky back down to the ground. And what?
No.
No?
It's light trespass is what that.
Right.
That was just trying to identify different sources of light. The light that's come in the picture, I think.
Right, but
not all of it. We can't. I'd love to regulate how much is reflected from the sky, but nature isn't going to change that. So, but it's just explaining. I think
it was not explaining what we're responsible.
You want more text.
Yeah.
You want more text describing it.
Yeah,
okay.
That's all.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's what should or shouldn't.
Light up in here.
Okay, we'll try and work on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be submitting ours, but the HOA and condo association and other planned communities, you know, we're a big part of the community and a big light users, and would like to be able to comply, but it's right now not really fitting our circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any more public comment?
We do not have any other hands raised online.
Okay, we have Rick.
I see members in this room, other than the committee, that have copies of the comments. Is there a possibility I can get a copy, or is there a way to get a copy?
This is Clayton with the City of Tucson. So Pima County is managing the strikeout version and the collating all of the comments. So any comments that are received to the city are directed to the county, And that's so that we only have one list that is distributed and one strikeout code version. The list was distributed yesterday via email for all of the participants on the contact list by Dan Ice at the county. If you didn't receive that, I did forward it to you about 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
But also, if you did not receive a copy of the comments that were discussed by the committee today and would like to receive the comments, please put your email in the chat and or be sure to sign into the sign-in sheet, because folks that sign into the sign-in sheet then get added to the distribution list. And we will make sure that you are added to that list when email notifications go out. Additionally, once the public comment period ends, we will be posting the entire comment list to the county site as the repository for all of the code and the comments.
And Dennis, there's something else that we got this thing from Attorney Timothy Kinney and talking about how our code does not adapt to Arizona revised statutes. And that's something that we can talk about in committee and then bring to the public forum, as well as the rest of the comments in committee, and then bring that to the next meeting, right, Clayton? We could talk about these in committee meeting, in our subcommittee. So that way we have an answer to the public questions, and then, say, based upon this is what we determined.
But I think some of us are saying that there's a benefit to having a broader discussion.
We'll have the discussion once because right now we're determining what this says based upon, but if we do it in subcommittee, we can bring that back to the next full committee meeting and then everybody discuss it at that point, what they want to say.
We could do that, but I think fundamentally our subcommittee's got to address what we've said we address.
Yeah.
You're right. We need to go over that. And that relates to this entire issue. We were just talking about the 25%.
Right.
And,
but I heard Priscilla, and I'll say I feel the same way, that having discussion with a bigger audience is helpful. And it seems like we've given you an awful lot of action items for the subcommittee just from the ones we got through today.
yeah,
So I have no objection to you talking about all of them, but we're going to all want to talk about them again.
Yeah,
So-
which is no problem at all. It
Okay,
just
great.
gives us opportunity to come up
That's good.
to answers of these statements that
Okay,
people are
great.
making.
so we've been in our meeting for, I think, our scheduled 2 hours now. I don't know if we want to continue any more today or if it's been enough. We still
I
have
think if we
more.
advertise a meeting for 2 hours, we should try to stay.
I don't know. I know the agenda doesn't have
It doesn't?
I just see it says at 1 p.m.
Okay.
There were notices sent out that said it was going to be a 3-hour meeting.
A 3-hour meeting.
3 hours.
All right.
Oh, no,
Let's get
another
going.
3 hour tour.
I'm not advocating, I am just stating.
Is that
We have so much to
When
get
we talk
through.
about procedural things, you need to have a location, an agenda that is actually have a start time and end time.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that. We also know that city and county staff are formally open. They couldn't control meeting today. So, but I'm willing to keep going if
I've got-
the committee is.
I
The
think-
more we get through, the easier it is for the subcommittee because they have more to deal with.
And the one thing I would say is in the original compilation, the next group of comments are all from Katie from Bishop Ranch Stone. And I wonder if we put those off because they're our consultant.
Well, and there's some at the end there besides her, but yeah,
Yeah.
maybe put hers on.
And
And that
then,
way we could talk about it in subcommittee, come up with an answer and then bring that to the.
yeah,
For
and
those of us that have interaction with the consultant, we would like to hear you work through the comments from the consultant,
If they're on the call, so you guys can ask any question.
right? I mean, as opposed to taking it back into the subcommittee, which does not give the impacted stakeholders the exposure to the
I
consultant's
think that's a
feedback.
good point.
So you don't want to get answers, you want to hear discussions.
yes,
It does.
that's what I'm hearing.
I personally like that because then I can change my mind by hearing how you got to your answer as opposed to just reacting to your answer.
There's a lot of IQ in the room.
Okay, we can keep going in orders.
That?
Uh,
Well, especially if the consultants are here, that's efficient too, because they wouldn't be.
So our first comment from FMS is about Chapter 1, Section 101. We recommend removing the following sentence as it's already covered in the 5 principles. It's all light shall have clear purpose, be directed only where it is needed, and no brighter than necessary. And I think we actually had that discussion and it didn't happen in the edit because it's correct. So in the middle of paragraph 101.3, what I just read, all light shall be clear purpose, et cetera, is there. And then it goes on to say the 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting published by the IES. And it repeats that: use light only if needed, distribute light only where it is needed, use light there's no brighter than needed, light control light so it is on only when needed, and use warmer color light when possible. So I think we should delete that internal sentence because it's better to reference the 5 principles that IES published.
Yeah, I thought we talked about this before.
I thought we did too, and it's still in there. I'm just going to say agreed. And I can put that in subcommittee because we'll be doing that. Okay. Next is Chapter 1, Section 101. In the 5 principles, second item, the phrase "where needed" refers to safety, aesthetics, owner preference, etc. That's just a comment and not suggesting that we change the text unless that is intended to change the text.
Just a moment, please. It looks like we've lost sound. The people online can't hear us. If we could just pause for a second. Sure. Find out.
Clayton, it's Charles. I can hear you.
Can? Okay. Okay. Please carry on. Thank you.
Charles, was the intent to actually alter the text, or you're just adding a comment that where means?
Hi, everyone. It was just to make sure we wanted to flag that our comments are 3 kinds. Some are just editors. We're editing with you. Second is this kind where we want to provoke a little discussion in the subcommittee to make sure we have clarity in what we're saying. And the third kind are more technical ones, some of which have been touched on today. So this is in that second category of something to discuss, just to make sure it's clear.
So in this particular case, you're just confirming that this was the intent.
Correct.
This was a topic I brought up last meeting, and I think, Charles, is that why you brought it up on here?
Maybe. I mean, we went through this probably a dozen times we're trying to tease out the redundancies and just make it more clear. And like Eloise was talking, to try to crystallize it a little bit. So that's why we picked it up. I know that you mentioned it before too.
Robin, is it a change needed?
I wonder if it falls under definitions. My whole thing is 15 years, we're not going to be here. Somebody's going to come in and want an exception from Pima County or City of Tucson for something. And I just don't think it's clear in the code, and especially section 101, that aesthetic lighting is something that we need. I don't think it's clear. Where needed, define that. Well, there's not really a definition. Charles has something here that points out that maybe the where needed, I think it's vague, and I think something just low as definition, where needed, could be defined.
Yeah, it's hard to, I think it's impossible to define.
What?
I think it's probably impossible to define.
That's your opinion.
Sorry?
That's your opinion.
That's right. I mean, can you give me a definition?
Of where needed,
Yeah.
Refers to safety, aesthetics, and owner preference. I think that's the definition.
But
Right.
Owner preference, that means where desired. I mean, what's the need for aesthetics? How do
What
you
is the
quantify
need? I
that?
don't know.
Yeah.
What's the need for other things?
So for other things, if you can put a metric on it, like being able to make a measurement of something, so you want the light level to be below some level or for safety, there are IE guidelines on a number. I don't know what the number is on aesthetics.
There's not a number, but it is neat.
So that's why I was saying it's hard to define.
I think looking at a dark sky is an aesthetic experience.
I think it looks like can be an aesthetic experience. For me, it's a dollar expenditure.
I think we should look at this. We should come back to this as we go through everything again, and as you write in the next draft, and maybe the whole sentence comes out because code is
It might have
prescriptive.
to come out. I think the people that
Yeah,
were advocating for it, and I think it was Amy, but maybe I'm wrong about that, was they were trying to provide a mode for the person reading the code. They were trying to provide a motive for why we have a code. And the code, all of us can describe this our own ways. For me, we're trying to meet the needs of all the communities that need to be out at night and be safe and do what they need to do without having more lighting that is needed for those activities. That's
right.
the reason of running the code. And people try in different ways to explain it, and different ways resonate with people differently. And the International Dark Sky Association, or I know they have a new name. I still can't go with it. So anyway, this was adopted from them because it was a way of trying to communicate why we're trying to minimize the skyline.
The thing, I guess what I'm hearing out of it is that last thing, that the outdoor lighting by IES, only if needed, distribute only where it is needed. I mean, it seems like a real parsimonious way of using light,
Big word. That's a big word.
keep it as restricted and
Yeah, I don't.
controlled as
Doesn't feel right.
possible.
Yeah.
Whereas I could imagine somebody that says, well, where needed, well, I have insomnia and I want to open my bedroom window at night and look in my backyard and see my trees all lit up because it makes me feel good. That's where needed. So I don't know.
If by
but
including
it's
where needed, we're putting our code at risk for lawsuits, then I want it out.
But
the intent was to try to explain to people why we even have a code.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking, since none of this really relates to an actual technical requirement, what difference does it make what these words say? They do nothing for me. Go ahead.
This is Clayton with the city of
now,
Tucson.
Charles here. So now you know why we flagged it. Can we move on? We need to come back to this. Probably take it out, but let's go on.
Just briefly, thank you, Charles. Appreciate the feedback. And yes, I want to reiterate something that was brought up last code committee meeting. The location of this is in the purpose and intent. It's not in the technical provisions of the code, which is to say, if someone appeals the code to the building official, we're going to point back to the intent and say, does your appeal meet the intent of the code? Unfortunately, this puts the building official in a very, very difficult position, okay? Because if they write their appeal to say, I need to scare away all the animals and kill the vegetation on my property, they've just demonstrated a need,
Okay.
right? But that
I
need,
have new proposed wording. Lighting only goes where Bill Januzzi wants it to go. How about that? I mean,
I beg to differ.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think you guys need to talk to Amy and others who wanted this and figure out if they're okay with moving.
Yeah, Amy wanted it, and we didn't push back on her.
Well, let's communicate what he just said.
Any suggestions?
I think needed is a very ambiguous, creates a lot of ambiguity.
Always need new wording. Dennis.
Very technical wording, Dennis.
I'm going to say this so that everyone else, this is a very good comment that was also reasonable, was also suggested to replace needed where reasonable. Reasonable is a little bit easier for the building official to make a determination, but then again, the building official now needs to determine what's reasonable for the municipality, maybe not what's reasonable for the applicant. We deal in absolutes. We deal in values, in numbers, and things that we can point to. And where someone proposes an option that doesn't meet those values, we have to look back at the intent and try to determine if it meets the intent of the code, right? And so, you know, when you start to put us into that position of trying to make a determination of whether or not it meets the intent, it really needs to have something that we could point to. For example, public safety or a pedestrian safety, right? If you put in something in the intent where needed for pedestrian safety, for example, right? Now we have something to measure that need against.
Dennis, I'll bring my thesaurus to the next subcommittee meeting.
So
You find a perfect word for it.
I've been comparing what's in our 2012 code to the proposed new draft. And basically everything we're talking about got added on to what was in 2012. But 2012 is actually pretty simple and to the point. You know, intended outcomes include continuing support of astronomical activity, minimizing wasted energy while not compromising safety, security, and well-being of persons engaged in outdoor nighttime activities. The intent of this code to control the obtrusive aspects of excessive and careless outdoor lighting usage while preserving, protecting, and enhancing the lawful nighttime use and enjoyment of any and all property. Now, so that's still in the draft, but then everything we've been talking about has been added on to that. Maybe we just need to stop as we did before.
So I would be more comfortable.
So I think I personally am okay, but the reason that's there is in previous meetings, there were a bunch of people that wanted us to make it, to add it. So
yeah, that's why it's there.
So I think you should, I think Clayton's, were you okay with the previous wording?
Yes.
That's a very, to me, that's a very strong argument to take to Amy, but just maybe she can help remind us who were the people that cared about the additional wording and why, so that we're not just, they're not a player.
I would still suggest that consideration is given to the broader scope of the needs of the community that aren't solely focused on what the previous intent said. For example, a consideration of the ecology was not part of the original intent, but has been brought up multiple times.
Right.
But that's something that's specific that we can point to.
Priscilla's, are we still in public, I guess?
Sure.
I think that, you know, one of the comments that has been made, and it came up from meetings with development services of both the city and the county, that Plan Tucson and FEMA Prospers, that are the two 10-year land use plans that really give the overarching goals of the city and county, and the Prosperity Initiative, that the intent of this outdoor lighting code should be consistent with FEMA Prospers, Plan Tucson, the Prosperity Initiative, which are which is a decade document that has some things that we're still working through and reconciling in the comments. On behalf of the commercial development community, and particularly Plan Tucson and FEMA Prospers, have to do with sustainability, which is environmental, social, and economic. The current intent doesn't really reference the economic need for light. It is more the social enjoyment of nighttime activities, people having to go work at call centers at 2 a.m. in the morning. So there's or the Beyond Bread bakers that have to go at 2 in the morning. And so there's no commerce or economic importance of lighting in the intent, and I think that's missing. People can say it's inferred by the lawful enjoyment of, you know, but that's not really showing the importance of neighborhood.
I'd like to comment on that. If you follow the IS recommendations in RP 43 for outdoor exterior lighting, those are designed to accommodate and provide for everything you just said. So if a task is someone coming to work at 3 a.m., the parking lot
Sure,
and the
I
pathway
understand.
to the
I
door
think we're
has to be
talking about
lit.
the wrap at 3:30.
So I think that's covered in the general recommendations that you're going to follow as a lighting professional. But we
Well,
can, of
Charles,
course, add. Go ahead.
Charles, we're in a unique community. And IES in no way outdoor wise takes in consideration the astronomical needs from the astronomy community to have lower than IES recommended standards.
No, that's
in
not
Tucson.
correct. That's not correct because you have the LZ
Well,
system. In fact, part of the design process the designers will have to proceed through is to select the LZ that's equivalent to our zoning in Tucson and Pima County. That's the first step, one of the first steps in the design process, which lowers your light levels dramatically from the tables in the IS handbook.
What you said used to be true. They changed it a few times.
So it's actually quite, the IES recommendations and our RP43 are very responsive. And in fact, the whole Dark Skies Initiative is very much a part of why RP43 was reissued this summer. So we're all in sync and we're doing this code revision at exactly the right time to pick up all the latest recommendations from the IES. So yeah, I think we're well supported there.
then I stand corrected.
Well, it's kind of new, so
Yeah,
it's good.
learn something new every day.
We have a comment in the room. Please
Sure.
state your name for the record.
Oh, Denise Vogels with the Bell Chamber. Question, if I understand correctly, Priscilla was mentioning like the call centers, the bread makers. I know for a fact, the Geico building downtown, place area, that place is completely dark. I understand that there has to be light at the front of the building, but they have major safety issues in the evening for the people that are in that call center in the later shifts. There's no lighting.
I don't think there's anything in the code that says you can't have light when you're working in the business.
Yeah, so I think, I noted this in some of the public comments, the perception that the code is making the light be turned off overnight as though the curfews that are in either chapter 6 or 7 would apply to like all the lighting. That's not the case. There are some special cases. So chapter 6 recreational lighting, chapter 7 outdoor sales and or outdoor manufacturing that you actually don't have to meet. You don't have to meet the lumen cap, and for the present code, and you don't even have to meet color temperature or for either of them. In the proposal, the sales would still have to meet color temperature. But the point is, they're exempted, but then they have a curfew. But when you hit your curfew, you don't have to turn 100% of your lights off. You can design your system in a way to leave ordinary lighting on, and you'll get your full lumen cap for your ordinary lighting. So
Clarification, when you say ordinary, shielded.
yeah, it most compliant with 401. So you after curfew, your unshielded light would be turned off at 11 p.m., but the fully shielded light could be on all night long. What will be different in the proposed code, though, is that for like outdoor parking areas and such, you'd have motion sensors on those areas, and the motion sensors, if they do not detect any activity in the parking lots, would throttle them back to at least 50%. So that'll help the dark skies by mitigating some of the reflected uplight, to less.
One of the problems we have is actually businesses that just stay lit all night. And no one's there.
My second question is,
Late.
sorry, the second question for you was, when you said we couldn't use where needed and reasonable, what about where conditions warranted as determined by applicable safety and lighting standards? Does that give the inspectors better language that keeps framework around it?
Yeah, applicable safety standards would absolutely give a, again, that more specific need-based justification. And so.
But that would work for aesthetics.
Right. Precisely.
Yeah.
And also to clarify, where that would really come up is in an appeal process, okay? Because the inspectors are going to default back to the technical aspects of the code and not make determinations based on the intent. However, an appeal process is always available to the public, which has to be justified in some sort of way. And that justification usually goes back and weighs very, very heavily on the intent statement.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's 3:30. So we gonna call this now?
I'm afraid I have to leave at 3:30.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think we went on. So we just got started here. I guess we need to look at our future agenda items. And I think we need other than the dates on legal action reports, we probably need the same agenda items for the next meeting. Not sure what the date is of our next meeting.
Right now, we have Wednesday, November 5th scheduled. We will be making some modifications to the management of this meeting to help with procedural aspects. Pima County is going to start scheduling the meetings at some point, but we didn't want to make that change until we had this meeting and a little bit further discussion. So we have plenty of advance notice that the meeting appointments are most likely going to shift. Meeting location is most likely going to shift. It's possible that will occur at the beginning of the year. Okay, so we want to have as minimal impact as possible. So that, we can, again, have as much engagement as possible.
Is it possible to start earlier and have a longer time, or is 1 o'clock a magic number?
That 1 o'clock is not a magic number. This committee does have the capacity to change the date and time. We recommend that we do this in far enough advance to notify the public and also to reserve room space. To help eliminate some of these issues with overbooking of conference rooms. Conference rooms are coming at a premium for the city right now. And so that is one of the reasons why we've been meeting over at Pennington Street Garage as of late. But I would also highly recommend that you have more of the membership present, or at least a majority of the membership present before you change the date and time.
Mm-hmm. Because you already had sent out that date, so we suppose we all have.
We do have an appointment that is already on the books for a 2-hour meeting on November 5th, starting at 1.
And there's one set up for December also,
Yeah,
December 3rd.
I don't care one way or the other when the meetings are. I usually make time for it.
Was there?
So if we want to start earlier,
When do we think we're going to have, I think I'm okay with leaving it as is for the next one, unless we're going to have the results from the consultant by then, in which case we might need more time, right?
And
even like this meeting, that when we got the public comment and it came pretty close to the meeting, so there wasn't a whole lot of time to digest everything that we've had so far.
I think whenever we get the feedback from the consultant, we're going to have these models, we're going to need more time. We're going to need time for them to present it so that the public can understand it, so we understand it.
The public comment period is scheduled to end 2 weeks before the next meeting.
Okay, that's good.
So in 2 weeks then.
Right.
Okay, but those models, the consultant's work is going to end up generating, how that comes out is going to impact a lot of things. So
principally lumen cap table.
Right. That's until that's fixed, it's hard to clean up everything else, right?
Well, I don't. There's a lot of other stuff that's been around, and I think the lumen cap table is its own thing. Charles got a question or comment.
Charles,
I have to clarify something that was said earlier that wasn't quite right. We are receiving what we're calling prototypical site plans with the building on them. And as I think Clayton or Dan said, they're complete submittals. But we're doing our own lighting design because we want to see what it would be like to approach it from zero, from a clean sheet of paper. So we're using the most efficient things we can, and we are using best practices to see whether we can, it's a test fit. And we're playing architect at the same time, making some comments about that. But we're not evaluating the lighting designs that are submitted. We're
Well, the
doing
ones
our own.
The ones submitted should already be demonstrating compliance with the 2012 code.
Which doesn't matter.
Because they have to.
Yeah. So I'm not so
we
interested
would have
in that.
comparison.
But I'm not, okay, well, that's not of great value. I don't think that's of great value because what we're trying to do is evaluate the tables as they are you have to do the whole design and then look at the lumen caps. The last thing, there are no tools in the lumen cap system. There's only the number. So you have to do the whole design and then turn in the book to the table you're going to use. If everybody understands that, you have to design it first and then look at the table. Obviously, you think you know which way you're going to go, but anyway, that's what we're doing. That's not the same as evaluating the design as submitted. We're not doing that because it's so long ago in some cases, or even months ago, you can't find the same fixture. You can't find the data online. Sure. You know, it's a different world. Enough said.
Right. The information that they've been given is a parking lot layout, a building, right, with door locations and things like that. And they are working to make sure that they meet the IES standards for
that project,
right? For that project from a design perspective.
Clayton, are they little 1 acre, 2 acre, or is it a full shopping center? I mean, what are they looking at?
We have three examples. One is a large retail facility. One is a car wash, simply because we get so many of them well lit. And one is a small.
Okay. Varying degrees of size, scope, whatever.
Correct. Three variations of size and scope that we feel meet the vast majority of the submittals that we see.
Charles, it would be interesting to see the foot candles from 2012 versus the foot candles on your design sites. That I think would help. I know you're saying that the old design doesn't help, but that'd be curious to know. Playing with the new tables, I've got 2 foot candles, and before they had 3. I'm throwing numbers at the wall.
But I have to use the new RP43 tables to do the design, so it doesn't matter what I got in 2012 because I have to design.
Yeah, but Charles, it's just to a lot of us, it's curious what the change in code will do. You're not going to. That will not be representative of your review unless I'm not done talking. Unless you compare it.
You done?
I am done.
So I thought what we were being asked, and it's important that we set expectations at the right level, is I thought the question was, can you do a design that meets the IES, the current IES standards? I thought there's a separate issue about whether if you can be safe with the current IES standards and you can do that design with that version of the table, why should it matter whether the lumen cap is lower than Las Vegas's?
Where did Las Vegas
or 2012? Why should it matter if it's lower than 2012? If you can do what you want with the current table, the assertion is you can't do what you want with this certain table, and I don't want to support that table if you can. But I don't see whether it matters whether it's
good data. It's good data.
And I think both
That's
that in general, when we acknowledge the change in technology, we wanted the same amount.
I'm in the library, so I just need a ticket for that.
But you also want, if that's all you wanted, I could give it to you with low pressure sodium and say, you know.
You could just end it.
What?
You don't have to make motions anymore to end the meeting.
Yeah, I guess.
We're not gonna have a quorum.
Okay, yeah, we need to wrap it up. Everybody needs to go. So for future
I'm sorry,
agenda,
I need to clarify a definition. They're not standards from the IAS. They're recommended practice. There's a difference.
Okay,
And
thank you.
It's an important distinction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're setting our agenda for next meeting, which will be November 5th.
Correct.
And it will be at 1 p.m. And you'll advise us room and all the rest of that. Keep the same agenda items on it. And I need to call for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
We're adjourned.
Time is 3:37.
Follow you with this.